If you're a single mom, tell me if this sounds familiar. You're at a family dinner, or maybe you're just on a Tuesday afternoon phone call with your mom and she drops one of those stupid comments. Maybe it's about how much you're working and who is watching the kids. Maybe it's a passive aggressive remark about your finances or how you handle your ex, or the fact that you've started dating again. And immediately you feel your chest tighten, you start over-explaining, you start defending yourself, and before the conversation is even over, you feel like a grounded teenager who just got caught breaking curfew instead of a grown woman raising children on her own. I'm Elisa Schwartz, and over the past 7 years, I've coached over 800 single moms through the exact dynamic you're dealing with right now. And here's what I learned the hard way, both from my clients and from my own life. Dealing with unsupportive family as a single mom is fundamentally different than dealing with anyone else's judgment. Because when your friends judge you, you can just distance yourself. But when your family judges you, especially when you might be relying on them for childcare or a place to live, or just the emotional safety net of having a village, it feels like you're completely trapped. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to give you the one psychological shift that will completely neutralize your family's judgment, so their comments literally stop affecting you. I'm going to hand you the exact communication framework that therapists use to shut down unsolicited advice without creating drama. And I'm going to show you how to set ironclad boundaries, even if you're financially dependent on them, which most people think is impossible, but it's not. If you actually apply what I'm about to teach you, you'll reclaim your power as a mother, as a woman, and as the sovereign adult you already are. Okay, let's get into it. So first, we need to understand why your family's judgment derails you so badly when a stranger's opinion wouldn't even make you blink. Because it's not just that their comments are annoying, it's that their comments physically hijack your nervous system and turn you back into a child. And until you understand this mechanism, you will keep falling into the same trap over and over again. So here's what's happening. When your coworker or a stranger makes a comment about your parenting, you might roll your eyes, but you brush it off. You know you're the mom. You know what's best for your kids. But when your parents or your older siblings make the exact same comment, suddenly you're drowning in guilt and second-guessing every single choice you've made. And here is exactly why that happens. You are experiencing what psychologists call age regression. Look, your brain spent the first 18 years of your life wired to seek your parents' approval because, from an evolutionary standpoint, your survival literally depended on it. If your parents disapproved of you, you weren't safe. You didn't get fed. You didn't get shelter. Your nervous system learned that parental approval equals survival. And even though you are now an adult, a mother, a woman running her own household and making life or death decisions for your children, the second your mom or dad uses that tone of voice with you, your nervous system instantly reverts back to being a 15-year-old girl trying to prove she's responsible enough to borrow the car. You are no longer interacting with them from your sovereign mother energy. You have collapsed back into daughter energy. And here's what daughter energy looks like. When you're in daughter energy, you treat their unsolicited advice as an authority figure grading your performance. You feel the need to show them your homework. You explain your budget line by line to prove you're not irresponsible. You defend your decision to go back to work or to stay home. You are subconsciously asking them for a permission slip to run your own life. Now, why does this matter? Because as long as you are seeking their permission, they will keep acting like your authority figure. You cannot demand to be treated like an autonomous adult while simultaneously auditioning for their approval. Those two things cannot coexist. So the very first shift you have to make, and this is the foundation everything else is built on, has nothing to do with what you say to them. It happens entirely in your own head. You have to consciously, intentionally remind yourself before every single interaction, I am not a child reporting to the principal. I am the sovereign mother of my own children. We are two adults having a conversation. Their opinion is just that, an opinion. It is not a verdict on my life. I had one of my clients, let's call her Rachel, who used to literally write the word sovereign on her wrist in pen before she went to her parents' house for Sunday dinner. Every single time her mom made a snide comment about her ex-husband or questioned why she wasn't dating yet or criticized how she dressed her kids, Rachel would glance down at her wrist. It was her physical anchor, her reminder to stay in her adult energy and not regress into the defensive, shame-filled teenager. And you know what happened after about 6 weeks of this practice? Her mom's comments started bouncing off her. Not because her mom changed. Her mom said the exact same things, but because Rachel stopped receiving them as a child being scolded. She started receiving them as an adult listening to an adult's unsolicited opinion. And that shift in her internal state completely changed the dynamic. So that's step one. Recognize when you're in daughter energy and consciously pull yourself back into sovereign mother energy. But once you've made that internal shift, you now have to change the way you communicate with them. Because right now, every time they criticize you, you're doing something that actually makes it worse. You're handing them the weapon they used to hurt you. And that's what we need to fix next. Now that you understand you've been operating from daughter energy, let's talk about the communication pattern that keeps you stuck in it. And this pattern is so automatic, so deeply ingrained, that you probably don't even realize you're doing it. Here's what happens. Your family criticizes a choice you've made, and your immediate knee-jerk instinct is to explain yourself, to defend your decision, to lay out all your reasoning so they'll finally understand and approve. Let's say your dad makes a comment about how you shouldn't be spending money on a gym membership when things are so tight financially. The old you, the you operating from daughter energy, will respond with something like, well, it's only $40 a month, and I actually canceled my Netflix and Hulu to pay for it, and my therapist said I really need an outlet for my stress, and honestly, it's good for the kids too, because when I work out, I'm in a way better mood and I don't yell as much, so it's actually an investment in my mental health, which affects my parenting. Now, pause. Look at what just happened there. You think you're helping them understand your decision. You think if you just explain it well enough, they'll see your logic and back off. But what you are actually doing is handing them ammunition. When you explain your reasoning in that much detail, you are silently communicating something much deeper. You're saying, this decision is up for debate. I am presenting my case to you. Please review my evidence and tell me if I made the right choice. And worse, you just gave them 5 different data points they can now pick apart and argue with. Your dad can now say, well, your therapist doesn't know your financial situation like I do. Or, if you didn't yell so much, you wouldn't need the gym in the first place. Or, $40 a month adds up. You could put that in savings. See what just happened? You opened 5 different doors for them to walk through and criticize you further. So, here is the rule I need you to memorize, write down, and tattoo on your soul if necessary. It's a concept from Al-Anon, and it's called JADE. It stands for never justify, argue, defend, or explain. As a sovereign adult, your decisions do not require a defense attorney. When you justify, argue, defend, or explain, you are stepping directly back into that daughter energy. You are treating them like the judge and yourself like the defendant. So what do you do instead? You inform, or you simply acknowledge and redirect. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in practice. Same scenario. Your dad says, I can't believe you're spending money on a gym membership when things are so tight financially. The Jade response, the sovereign mother response, sounds like this. I appreciate your concern. I'm comfortable with my budget. And then you stop talking. That's it. No explanation, no justification, no 12-point defense of your choices. Let me give you another example. A family member says, I can't believe you're letting the kids go to their dad's this weekend after what he pulled last week. You're being a pushover. What you usually do, the defending and justifying response, I'm not being a pushover. The court order says I have to, and if I don't let them go, he'll take me back to mediation. And my lawyer said it would look really bad if I violated the agreement. And honestly, the kids want to see him, even though I think he's a terrible father, but I can't just keep him from him because of my feelings. The jade-free response, the sovereign mother response, I hear your concern. I'm handling the situation with him. And then you stop talking. Oh, this one makes your blood boil, doesn't it? The silence is going to feel absolutely agonizing at first. You are going to want to fill the dead air with explanations and justifications because you want them to know you're right. You want them to see your logic. You want them to approve. But I need you to understand something that's going to change everything. Over-explaining is a trauma response. It's a trauma response that comes from spending years feeling chronically misunderstood, chronically doubted, chronically questioned. And here's the brutal truth. Your family is not misunderstanding you because you haven't explained it well enough. They are misunderstanding you because they are viewing your life through their own anxieties, their own generational programming, their own need for control, and their own unprocessed fears about what it means to be a single mother. You cannot explain someone out of their own psychology. You cannot logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. So you have to stop trying. Here's your new script for every situation. If they question your parenting, I appreciate that you love the kids so much. I've got this handled. If they question your finances, I'm comfortable with the budget I've set. If they question your dating life, I'm not looking for input on my personal life right now, but I'll let you know if that changes. If they question your work schedule, I'm doing what works best for our family. You are not being rude. You are being a wall, a kind, polite, immovable wall. You are establishing the boundary that your life is an update, not a group project. They can have their opinions, but they don't get a vote. Now, I know what just went through your head. You're thinking, Elisa, that sounds great in theory, but what if I actually need them? What if I rely on them for childcare or I'm living in their house? I can't just shut them down like that, or they'll pull their support. And that's exactly what we need to talk about next, because this is where the real trap lies for single moms, and this is where most advice completely falls apart. So now that you understand you need to stop jading and stay in sovereign mother energy, we have to address the elephant in the room, the thing that makes this entire situation feel impossible for most single moms, and that's the conditional village. Here's what I mean by that. Maybe you had to move back in with your parents after the split. Maybe your mom watches the kids for free 3 days a week so you can work. Maybe your sister helps you financially when things get tight. And because they are providing this massive logistical or financial support, they feel entitled to an all-access pass to your decision-making. They operate from the unspoken rule of, my roof, my rules, or I'm helping you with the kids, so I get a say in how you raise them. And you feel completely paralyzed because you're thinking, if I set a boundary and piss them off, I lose my childcare, I lose my housing, I lose my safety net. I can't afford to make them mad. And look, your fear is completely valid. It is terrifying to think about losing the support you're relying on. But here is the massive reframe you have to make if you want to survive this dynamic without completely losing your mind or your sense of self. You have to separate the transaction from the emotional authority. Let me say that again, because this is critical. You have to separate the transaction from the emotional authority. Yes, they are doing you a massive favor. Yes, you should be grateful for the childcare or the housing or the financial help. But receiving help does not mean you have to surrender your autonomy as a mother. Those are two separate things, and they're trying to package them together as one. So how do you handle this practically? You treat the logistical support like a professional, boundary-based agreement, and you clearly, explicitly define the edges of it. If your mom watches your kids and she uses that as an excuse to criticize how you feed them, discipline them, or dress them, you do not get into an emotional screaming match about respect and boundaries. You address it exactly the way you would address a nanny or a daycare provider who overstepped. You say something like this: Mom, I am so incredibly grateful that you watch the kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It helps me provide for them, and they absolutely love being with you. And because of that, I need us to be on the same page about a few things. When I come to pick them up and you criticize my parenting choices in front of them, it undermines my authority as their mother. I need you to respect the decisions I make for them, even if you would do it differently. If you have a concern, I'm happy to talk about it privately, but not in front of the kids. You are being direct, you are being kind, you are being appreciative, but you are also being a wall. Now, here's where it gets scary. What happens if they threaten to pull the support? What happens if they say, well, if you won't listen to my advice, I guess I just won't watch them anymore? This is the moment of truth. This is the moment where they test whether you are actually a sovereign adult or if they can still control you with fear. And I'm going to tell you something that is going to sound absolutely terrifying, but it is the only thing that will actually set you free. You have to be willing to figure it out without them. If you constantly fold on your boundaries because you are terrified of losing their help, you are not being helped. You are being held hostage. And there is a massive difference between support and control disguised as support. I had a client who lived with her parents for a year after her divorce. Her father constantly undermined her rules with her son. He'd give him sugar before bed when she said no. He'd let him skip homework. He'd talk badly about her ex in front of the kid. And every time she tried to address it, he'd say, well, this is my house. If you don't like it, you can leave. She was terrified. She was barely making enough to cover her bills. She couldn't afford her own place yet. But one Sunday, after he undermined her in front of her son for the 10th time that week, she looked at him and said, Dad, I respect that this is your house, but if the cost of living here is that I am not allowed to parent my own child, then I need to make other living arrangements. It might take me 2 months to figure it out, but I'll start looking today. And you know what happened? He backed down completely. Because bullies, and sometimes our parents act like emotional bullies even if they love us, bullies rely on your desperation. They rely on you believing you have no other options. The second you show them that you are willing to embrace the hardship of independence rather than submit to their control, they lose their leverage. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you won't have to scramble. You might have to find a lower-income daycare. You might have to move into a tiny apartment. You might have to ask friends for help or look into community resources. But knowing that you can survive without them, even if it's hard, is the only thing that gives you the power to set boundaries with them. Because if you're not willing to lose their support, then you have no leverage, and they know it. So you have to get honest with yourself. You have to ask, what is my backup plan if they pull their help? And then you have to start quietly building that backup plan so the next time they threaten you, you can mean it when you say, I'll figure it out. You are more resourceful than you think you are. Do not let their help convince you that you are helpless. Those are two completely different things. But here's what's going to happen once you start setting these boundaries. Once you stop jading, once you step into sovereign mother energy, once you make it clear that their help does not come with ownership of your choices, you're going to feel something that might surprise you. And if you don't understand what it is, you're going to think you did something wrong. Instead of feeling empowered and free, you feel sad, deeply, profoundly sad. And you might confuse that sadness with guilt. You might think, I feel bad, so I must have done something wrong. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I shouldn't have set that boundary with my mom. Maybe I should just let it go and keep the peace. But that's not guilt you're feeling. It's grief. You are grieving the supportive family you wish you had. And this is the piece of the process that almost no one talks about, which is why so many single moms get stuck right here and slide back into old patterns. So let's talk about it. When you became a single mom, whether by choice, by divorce, by death, or by circumstance, You probably pictured your family rallying around you. You pictured them being your soft place to land. You wanted them to look at you, see how hard you're trying, see how much you're juggling, and say, "You're doing an incredible job. We've got your back. What do you need?" And when, instead, they offer criticism, passive aggression, unsolicited advice, and judgment, it is a massive betrayal of the village you thought you were going to have. And lovely, I need you to hear this with your whole heart. It is entirely okay to mourn that. It is okay to be furious that you don't have the unconditionally supportive parents that some of your friends have. It is okay to cry about the fact that your sister doesn't get it and probably never will. It is deeply, deeply unfair, and you have every right to feel that. But here is the shift you have to make if you want to move forward. You cannot build a beautiful, peaceful life for yourself and your kids while you are still desperately trying to squeeze water from a dry well. As long as you are trying to force your unsupportive family to become supportive, as long as you are trying to explain yourself into their approval, as long as you are hoping that one day they'll finally see you and validate you, you are draining your own energy. You are going to them with an empty cup, begging them to fill it, and they keep handing you sand. So you have to accept them for exactly who they are and exactly what they are capable of giving. Not who you wish they were, not who they should be, not who they could be if they just tried harder or loved you better. Who they actually are right now, today. Maybe your parents are capable of loving your kids and taking them to the park and spoiling them with ice cream, but they are not capable of being your emotional support system, so you stop going to them for emotional support. Maybe your sister is great to grab coffee with and laugh about surface level things, but she is not a safe person to discuss your financial struggles or your fears about the future with. So you stop expecting her to be that person. You stop going to the hardware store looking to buy milk. You stop expecting them to be the village they have repeatedly, consistently proven they are not. And when you finally accept that, when you finally stop trying to change them or win their approval or make them understand you, something absolutely incredible happens. You free up all that mental and emotional energy, all that hope and effort you were pouring into a broken system, and you redirect it toward building your chosen village. You start connecting with other single moms who actually get it. You start finding friends who cheer for your wins instead of questioning them. You start seeking out people who see your strength instead of pointing out your struggles. You start becoming your own safe place to land. You stop being the wounded daughter, desperately hoping her family will finally understand her, and you become the empowered woman who understands herself. And that woman, she doesn't need anyone's approval to know she's a damn good mother. So now you have the complete framework. You understand why their words destroy you. It's the inner child regression trap. And you now know how to stay in sovereign mother energy. You have the JADE technique to stop handing them ammunition every time they criticize you. You know how to set boundaries even when you're logistically or financially dependent on them by separating the transaction from the emotional authority. And you know that you have to grieve the village you thought you'd have so you can finally build the one you actually need. If you actually apply these 4 shifts, I promise you, your next family dinner is going to look completely different. You're going to walk in as a different woman, and you're going to walk out with your peace intact. If this resonated with you, if something I said made you feel seen or understood or less alone, I want you to do me a favor. Share this video with another single mom who needs to hear it. Someone who's stuck in this exact dynamic, someone who feels trapped between needing her family and losing herself to their judgment. Send her this video. It might be exactly what she needs to finally break free. And look, if you want the complete roadmap for all of this, if you're tired of just surviving your week and you actually want to start thriving and enjoying your life again, check out the Surviving to Thriving Guide. It's a 6-pillar transformation system that's helped hundreds of burned out single mothers reclaim their identity, set ironclad boundaries, heal from the inside out, and create a life that actually feels worth living instead of just survivable. I've put all my expertise from working with over 800 single moms over the past 7 years into this guide, and I made it available for everyone. You can find the link in the description or in the first pinned comment below. And please, never forget that I see you. I know how heavy it feels to be the only adult in the house, making all the decisions and feeling like everyone around you is grading your performance. But you are doing it. You're showing up every single day. You are the exact mother your children need. Not a perfect mother, not a mother who has it all together, but a mother who loves them fiercely and refuses to give up. You are not alone, you are not crazy, and you are absolutely strong enough to handle this. I'll see you in the next video.